Hello, my name is Alexandra Durgan, and I am a women's specialty registered nurse and the founder of Origin Pelvic Care. I am so grateful that you are here. This is a storytelling experience of the history of gynecology and the origin of womanhood. A story that I believe to be imperative that we remember in service to all women and to humanity itself. This is a time where we must resurrect the lineage of the womb, remember where we came from, so that we can orient towards what needs repair in our healthcare systems and societies. To understand better how we got here today, to understand better why we have such skyrocketing rates of birth trauma, why we have an ever-increasing population of women being diagnosed with pelvic disease, pelvic pain, infertility, sexual diseases, and the like. We must understand our history, because our history speaks the story of how we got here today. And my loves, we're going to drop in. So letting those beautiful eyes drift close. And we're going to begin to deepen into body and breath with a rich, loving inhale in through the nose and out through the mouth. Another delicious, soothing breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And beautiful women, I'm inviting you to find a cadence of breath that is nourishing and supportive to your body, letting it be so slow and so deep. And we're going to invite the next inhale to come into presence with the parts of your body that are in connection to the earth beneath you. Maybe for you today, that is your whole back body. Maybe it's your whole side body. Maybe it's your sit bones and your legs. Wherever it is for you, wherever you are connecting to the earth, letting breath move into these spaces. And the exhale, softening you, melting you down and into these spaces as your body begins to weigh just a little more into the earth. And as you begin to sink in and drop in, beautiful woman, really letting the jaw be soft. The exhale move through the shoulders, letting go at low belly, letting the legs become heavy. Really exploring here how much you can allow the earth to hold you. And letting that next breath deepen you even more as you receive these loving arms, this loving presence of the earth beneath you. As your body receives how held and fully supported you are, that the earth is not just holding one part of you or a few parts of you, that the earth is holding every single bone and cell and atom in your body. As she is holding and supporting every morsel of your existence. And sweet woman, on the next inhale, inviting one hand to come to your heart and one hand to come to your low belly. And we're going to breathe here for a few breaths between womb and heart. Really feeling your hands on your body, your hands holding you, the earth holding you between heart and womb. And with the next inhale, we're going to let hands lovingly move down to pubic bone, both hands resting over pubic bone. Feeling the front of your pelvic bones, of this sacred pelvis. Tuning into the strength of your bones here and the way that they cradle you. Their deep ancestral presence. With the next inhale, letting your hand softly move to one hand on each hip, holding the sides of your pelvic bowl, meeting the sides of these bones as they wrap around you, connecting the left and right hemispheres of your root space. Feeling your bones orienting into their support for you. Sinking into the presence of your bones. So held, my love. With the next inhale, letting one hand come back to pubic bone, front of pelvis, and the other hand reach behind your body to hold sacrum, back of pelvis. Feeling the front and back body gateways of your pelvic bowl. As they wrap around to hold you, wrap around to cradle you. And feeling your womb resting sweetly in the center of pelvic bowl. Protected by your bones, her ancient protectors, your ancient protectors, their strength and presence. Creating the loving boundaries of your body, holding you in this nest within your root space. And we are opening the portal of today's transmission, of a deep story, a story that's etched into the knowing of your bones, but perhaps has yet been languaged. So I invite you to notice in the earth of your body where your hands desire to rest most. Maybe your hands move back to your heart. Maybe they stay at your pubic bone. Maybe they rest on the sides of your hips. Just noticing where your hands are drawn to now and letting them find presence of support there. This transmission is the story of what took place in the Indo-European lands, whose history has impacted the present moment of the indigenous lands of the now United States, and of which founded the original principles and practices of modern gynecology, the womb severance, the loss of womb lineage. This is one story among many stories in many lands over time. It does not and cannot represent the wholeness of all stories that our global community and humanity has experienced. This is the story of the history of gynecology and the origin of womanhood. Beautiful woman, feeling the earth beneath you as you now lay upon the mother, feeling the kindred spirits of all women hearing and remembering this story through their own bones, womb portals, hearts, and blood. Remembering that we each represent a temple of remembrance, of a time that once was, a time that is humming in our bones and blood, our womanly bodies and bellies, a time that is resurrecting through our cellular matrices, a time that is calling us to return. Letting the memory of your body cascade you back through time. It was 4000 BCE. In this moment, the measurement of time would not have made sense, for you were in rhythm with the 13 seasonal moons. You are resting on the soft forest floor, covered in moss and dirt, where you have made a place of comfort among nature and your people. Your concept of time is only known by the stars and moon cycles, the stars which twinkle like luminous lights above you, guiding you into the night, glistening portals to the goddess who watches over you, who you know well. Your body is caressed sweetly on the soft, fertile earth, where the seedlings and flowers speak of the moon's rhythms. You, woman, live in such a way where the moon's waxing and waning guides you. When she is full, you and your people dance under her soft lit belly in the sky, your feet covered in the richness of her soil. You sing around fires and celebrate your wholeness with her wholeness. The blossoming and harvesting of the crops you planted in the dark phases, whose seedlings are now peeking above the earth's dark crested edge. meeting the air as they reach tall and sprout, as you sprout together. You know that as the belly of the womb becomes full, so do you, so do your people, the womb in the sky, the moon of the goddess. As the moon is full, so do your gardens grow and your bellies grow full with her. And you know that as she begins to wane, that it is a time of slowly turning inward. Her darkness is ceremony, a time where you sit at her dark altar, a time where if you are bleeding, you and your sister kin go deep into the woods to vision for your tribe. As the mouth of your womb, your cervix open, as the plains between spirit and earth become one, you are honored by your bleed, the red thread and river of life. Having sat with your mama as she bled, having witnessed this sacrament, when your first bleed came, your tribe celebrated. The wheel of life continued, and you were welcomed into the red tent with her. Your grandmother had watched over you both during your first Red River ceremony. You knew it well, and this was sacred time. And you now live even deeper in rhythm with your women and people. You rest and replenish during your bleeds. You know them through lineage to all be holy ceremony. You reflect upon each one as the red river of life drips from your body and into the earth. No holding, full surrendering, flowing unto her. Remembering the visions that have molded you and moved through you, that have moved through your sisters, for your people. The cycles you have taken as a tribe from this wisdom. The young girls who have yet to bleed bring you water and food. You remember this task well, and thank them for their kindness, gazing into their young eyes, their innocent eyes, translating knowing eye to eye, woman to maiden. The grandmothers who now hold their blood guard your visioning and anchor your circle and blood ceremony. Your grandmama is still one of them. The other tribal people plant seeds into the dark earth. The men stand watch and hold sacred space. They sit and listen to the goddess as they await your return, as they rest until the light comes. It is a living rhythm where you all replenish, where you sit at the altar of the darkness, the unlit belly of the goddess in the sky. You draw your energy into your hearts and wombs and bodies to hear her scripture. When the dark time comes, you re-meet your soul essence and body as a channel for her. Just as the seeds your people plant under the guidance of the dark moon into the dark rich earth, where the seeds too may harness their sacred essence in the soil underground, in the womb underneath and within, to produce prosperous and strong crops, deep-rooted trees, and beautiful gardens. You know there is a time of descent, the seed into the earth, you and your people to the earth and into the dark caverns of your bodies and souls. You know this descent well. You travel it every moon cycle. And only as the moon waxes her first luminous sliver back into the sky do you emerge, people and earth as one. Only then do the seeds emerge, does the earth and your own bodies emerge in unison, in rhythm, more in tune with the goddess, reconnected through the darkness, seed and soul essence communed. And for the next 2 weeks, your prayers bellow louder. You come alive again. You give your work, your medicine, your gifts, your love under the continued illumination of the moon's light, of her light, until her full belly blesses the sky again. In rhythm, in fullness, to then soften and wane you back into her darkness, cycling under her light and guidance. You and your people knew spirit through the earth and moon. You prayed to Inanna, Ishtar, Isis, Demeter, and Artemis. You lived in integrity and a deeply woven, embodied relationship to life and life cycle. You knew that all endings, all death, all darkness was the precursor to rebirth, the necessary moments for the regenerative powers of life to be harnessed so they may blossom within the next cycle. You did not know depletion or exhaustion because this rhythm nourished you, nourished your people, nourished the land, and sustained the collective of all life and humanity. Your body was always understood to be a temple. Your people lived in reverence for your life-giving body. They knew the fertility of their women was the fertility of their tribe and of the Great Mother herself. You knew in the depths of your consciousness that sexuality was an offering of ecstasy, healing, regeneration, and spiritual illumination. This was sacrament. But these were matriarchal times. And slowly in the cycle of life, 2,000 of what we would now call years pass. It is now 3000 BCE. There is a stirring in your bones and people. You could feel that something was changing in the winds and nature of the skies and the palpation of the earth and your bones. There was a transition to something you didn't understand, something not innate to you, something that felt out of order. New worship structures were forming, turning away from the moon and her 13 rhythms and requesting you to be with the sun. Prayers of the solar gods began to emerge and overturn your people's practices to a new rhythm, turning you away from the moon, away from the goddess's belly, away from the turning of the slow cycle. A following brood for Yahweh, Amen, Ra, Zeus, Apollo. You loved these gods, but not at the sacrifice of your own goddess. You could feel the power of these gods in their own truth, but you also felt a forgetting. Something was being lost that was hard to decipher, but felt in your own rhythmic body as the people turned more and more towards the sun, whose rhythm was always the same. as the people began to forget and deny the times of rest and darkness. The unraveling of a deeply woven intimacy with the dark goddess and her 13 phases. The worship of the light and sun began. Over time, people lost touch with the holiness of the dark, and fear began to run in the night. Instead of descending with the moon during her dark days, people stayed inside, awaiting the morning light. The loss of descent, the loss of the grander rhythms. Life's pace itself began to quicken, orienting towards the rise and fall of the sun over and over, what began to be called day by day. You could feel the origin of your own body being forgotten, being altered, being ushered forward as a pace that was unfamiliar to you and your nature, just as the moon was forgotten and altered. Soon patriarchal reign set in, and darkness became feared as it slipped into the unfamiliar realms. As the darkness was feared, so was your bleeding sexual body, the dark caverns of your womb and the river they released. This which pours from the dark spaces from womb to cervix to yoni. Over 30,000 years of matriarchy began to crumble. Scripture lost. Solar gods and patriarchal reign ushered in the Bronze Age, and bronze-made weapons. Material-made items you had never seen before. They spoke of a God who lived in the sky and wielded bolts of lightning. They failed to speak of the earth's fertile body, the wisdom of her seasons, or the holy times of the moon goddess's darkness. They forgot of the importance of descent and rest, of blood and regeneration. Soon it became wrong to speak of such darkness. Your heart and bones ached. You wept with your women and people as your ways were destroyed. Your leaders deprived of their spiritual authority. Your grandmama's voices shut and shunned. The great goddess and Mother Universe were dominated through mouths of new people to be the only great God and Father. Your ache was not with the great Father, but in the people-led slaughtering of your Mother Universe. As the years passed, the sacrament of your life-giving, ecstatic, spiritually illuminating body was put into control. Eventually, marriages between your sisters, priestesses of the goddess, and leaders of the patriarchal time were enforced to halt the lineage of the matriarchy, the matrilineal succession. They wanted to transfer bloodlines through patriarchal descent and slow the passing of wisdom, sever it completely from the ways that you once knew. Slowly the years passed. The daughters, mothers, and grandmothers still whispered softly to each other of the medicine codes that swam through the cellular remembrances of their bodies, of the scripture that spoke through the Red River. They would anoint their foreheads with blood in secrecy, gaze into the darkness in secrecy, sit under the luminous lights of the stars in secrecy, dig their fingertips into the earth and lay on her soft belly, humming to the mother their prayers of return. their offerings of remembrance, calling to her body to let them know when they could speak again, when they could come home to the time that they and their people once knew. Many moons passed, and slowly 13 was stripped to 12. Grief widened in the body of the people as the pace of life continued to drastically quicken. It was soon the 1300s. Times in indigenous Europe were barren. An ice age moved through and weakened the people even further. Famine and the Black Plague cut the population by half. The church took rule both religiously and governmentally. Women's famished bodies and the loss of food and fertility within the earth left the people hungry, the fertility of all life compromised. Yet the gardens kept by women, the herbal medicine keepers, still grew. These women cared for the sick and later themselves. They drank the herbs to protect their wombs, whispering the wisdom of remembrance, to nourish themselves as best as they could in malnourished times. They would concoct herbal contraceptives to protect their frail bodies from having to further deplete by carrying life, conception that was being forced to regenerate the population decline. But as the famine worsened, as the fall of people continued, new laws began to arise that forbid the use of herbs. In secrecy, women would still drink their potions of healing and protection, but many succumbed to the punishment now titled as sorcery, with the demand to return the population. In the late 1400s, two reverends created the book called Malleus Maleficarum, which translates to the hammer of the witches. A direct quote from this book reading, "No one does more harm to the Catholic Church than midwives. The womb protectors began to be hunted. The womb keepers turned to even deeper secrecy." This writing ruled over the next 300 years, condemning women as witches through torturous witch trials and, for some, execution. Herbal use, sex as sacrament, and the worship of the goddess was lost at the blood of these women. A belief structure was presented to the people, accept or death, that only God-given cures could be used and ushered forward by men, by popes, by priests, as God in their eyes was man, as the bloodlines turned to the patriarchy. It was spread at this time that the healing powers of women was the work of evil. In the mid-1500s, any woman who was allowed to serve or assist the emerging male doctors in birth or health was put under oath and sworn to these words: "I will not use any kind of sorcery or incantation in the time of travail of any woman, so God help me." Over 15 generations took place where women were watched and caught for using natural and earth herbal medicine. They suffered great consequences as it was seen as defying God's will. Children watched their mothers be burned, killed, and punished. Husbands watching their wives and taking on the grief and suffrage of their family and motherless homes. This was massive genocide in our history of women, which almost exterminated our connection to the earth, her medicine, and the medicine of our bodies. With the loss of herbal practice and the medicine that these women carried, women began to have 10 to 12 children, paired with massive maternal and child mortality. The womb keepers could not protect them. At this time, the practice of doctors, of which were only allowed to be specific white men, continued to emerge. The teachings and consciousness of the collective continued to accept that men were the only ones who could serve God's cures, and their knowledge as such was superior to woman. These times were the loss of womb lineage and the beginning of allopathic care. From the 1700s to the end of the 1800s, obstetrics and gynecology as we know it today was indoctrinated by men who had no experience of birth and whose ideals were entirely severed from the goddess and universal mother. In some towns, maternal mortality was 100%. People began to flee Europe. Voyages to the land that is now called the United States was originally the land of the first and true, the indigenous native people, now slowly absorbing the pain of the overturned indigenous European cultures. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, it is written into the historical text of the United States that James Sims, a white male, pioneered surgical tools and techniques for treating women's diseases, some of which sources say are still used today. James's work and discoveries were primarily founded by experimenting on the bodies of African and Irish slave women. In his journals, he explicitly recorded not using anesthesia or pain-relieving techniques as he didn't believe in the pain of these women. James Sims is prestigiously titled the father of modern gynecology. He eventually sold and taught his teachings to the rising collegiate institutions of medicine, of which remained comprised only of white men. Parallel women of this land fought to return to birth, which was now being solely held in hospitalized settings that were being built by the church. In 1914, twilight births began with these hospital settings, which sold to the upper-class white women as elite modern science advancements. Twilight births were performed with the use of heavy doses of morphine and scopolamine, which put women into a blackout amnesic state where they would not remember anything of their birth. We cannot say what happened to the birth of our grandparents during this time, whether they were met with kind hands descending from their mothers' bodies or rough medical, cold tools extended by a hand of a man who knew she was passed out and may not have had the heart to care, as this was scientific, medicalized advancement. My great-grandmother and my grandmother suffered from these twilight births. She has told me the stories of regret. She has a collapsed pelvis, one that she has had since the birth of her children. And it was recently that she shared these stories with me after learning more of what I do. In the moment, I found the immense importance to hearing the birth stories of our grandmothers, of listening to them with love, and lending our heart and wombs towards each other in village. In 1919, gynecology began at the Mayo Clinic, the nation's #1 hospital, founded by the Mayo brothers. Subsequently, in 1910, John D. Rockefeller brought all of the newspapers in the USA under his control, leveraging his family's large quantities of money and political influence. He used this influence and pressed Congress to declare all natural healing modalities as scientific quackery. From this, all medicine outside of pharmaceuticals has since been classified as alternative. Then, he took over the American Medical Association, offered large grants to medical students. To receive these grants, the medical students had to enter an agreement to teach his curriculum, which includes pharmaceutical protocol and data collection on people. Upon this agreement, any mention of the healing power of food or lifestyle was erased from medical textbooks. Over the last 100 years, those who have spoken out have become at risk of being stripped of their licensure. Here we are today in 2023. You are resting in your home, connected to a circle of women all around the world. Your bones and body called you here because a part of you could feel that there was something you needed to remember, something you're craving to touch, a part of you you're aching to know again. There has been a sense of severance from a part of your womanhood that you are being intimately called to repair. You can feel in this circle of women that your bloodlines are deeply woven. And in truth, our origins are inseparable. Our origin of the earth, our origin of the womb, of the sacrament that is our bodies, of our belonging to the red river of blood, our connection to the medicine of our flesh, bones, and nature that weaves all life together. Our cellular matrices and sensual intelligence, which will never forget those dark nights bleeding under the moon, held in intimate safety by the mother of the universe, by the goddess. The fertility of our bodies and of the earth humming us into union and belonging with her as we laid and rested on the belly of the warm and moist Mother Earth body, singing to the goddess, singing with each other as we visioned for our people, as we prayed through our bodies, as we met spiritual illumination through our sexuality. You can feel your mother with you, your grandmamas who came before. Through this comes the pulse of remembrance deep in your bones, woman. Its feeling soothes your heart and the aches of your body. It softens the fears and restores gentle faith as the goddess returns to your entire being now. You can feel this, and that through this comes an incredible opportunity to write a new story and to steward a new future ahead. There is wisdom that lives within us, stories that cannot be erased, a relationship to the land and each other that is built into our sacramental bodily systems, that pours through our wombs, cervixes, and life-giving bodies, that replenishes through our blood and the red river of life. It is ours to resurrect, to repair, to regenerate. For this is the origin of our womanhood. invite you to let your breath cascade through your body as we rest, receive, and integrate during this song.
In this moment, all the earth stands still. Time unwinds its coil. Life is filled to the brim. We spaciousness. Oh, how simple. Oh, the sacred. Oh, how simple. Oh, the unfolding sighs and cries rain out, a universal openness. Each spirit here sang into ferocious love. No fear here, no fear here, no fear here. Oh, the sacred. Oh, the sacred.
And beautiful woman, letting a deep breath sweetly cascade through the earth of your body as you are held by the universal mother, as your bones and blood, as your tissues and sexual body hums in a sweet remembrance as you are cradled upon the sacred and fertile, soft and warm belly of the Earth Mother. As you are held in a body that loves you so much. With the next breath, I invite you to return your hands to your hips. Breathing in again to the bones that hold you. To the wise wisdom of your hips as they cradle you. And feeling the left and right hemispheres of your hips as they wrap around you. With the next inhale, letting your hands move to front and back of pelvis, pubic bone, and sacrum. Feeling the whole circle of your pelvic bowl, of your sacred root, and of the bones that hold you. And on the next inhale, letting one hand come to your low belly and womb, and another to your heart. Feeling your heart and womb together. These sacred spaces. And my love, letting a deep breath and move through your whole body. And I'm slowly calling you back.